Hello, it's Andrea, and today I have Valentine's Day decorations up because I really like Valentine's Day. So we are starting exactly a month early. I actually put these up, well no, it's a little over a month actually because the 14th isn't for a few days. You also cannot see, but I do have garland on my bookcase. The way I'm going to be standing today, you won't be able to see it, but maybe in some future videos you'll be able to. So I have this available as well. And today, you could probably read from the title, but today we are going to be talking about a book challenge that I started a few months back and failed to finish at all. I absolutely have been failing at this book challenge. It's actually a 2020 reading challenge, but I started it halfway through the year. I was going to try to get my numbers up, so I read 30 more books than I actually did. Never got around to it. So I am a couple books in, but I am very determined to finish this very soon. I will talk about kind of my process for trying to chug through books in a enjoyable manner as we go through. So I did just want to say one quick shout out before I started. I got this new book yesterday. It is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I'm very excited about it. I'm actually reading, and we'll talk about it in a minute, I'm reading The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern right now. My mom picked this up for me yesterday at Christmas Tree Shop. Well, I picked it up and asked her to get it, and she kindly did. So I'm very excited about this. I don't know when I'll get around to it, but it's the cover that I wanted. I don't like the cover that's black with the keys on it with the gold ribbons. It's just not my, cup of tea. So I'm glad that I got this cover too, and it was very much so discounted from what you would get from Amazon or thrift books, which is what I've been buying my books from, or even like little free libraries or donations and anything like that. So very excited for this. And I'm just gonna kind of get into the video. So I have my phone out to kind of give some guidance for the book categories and everything on Pinterest. I will link a link to the pin below if you want to try out this challenge yourself. Again, it is a 2020 reading challenge technically, but it isn't, 2020 specific. You could do this book challenge anytime. I believe there are 30 books. I'm not really 100% sure. But we'll get into that in just a second. So there are a couple books again that I have read. There are two that I already read. The first one is a book that I own but haven't yet read, and that was Hit and Run by R.L. Stine, which is a Fear Street novel. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I read a few Fear Street novels a year. And they're basically just R.L. Stine's YA version of Goosebumps. They're a little bit more serious. They're flash fiction. I mean, you can call them that. Very quick mass market paperback books. They're very good. I will put up these pictures as well, but this is oh, you can actually see it. Okay. So this is Hit and Run. Focus. This is a picture that I took for Hit and Run on my Bookstagram. And then the other book that I read, and now I'm not in focus. There we go. The other book that I already read was The Siren by Kiera Cass, which is a book I could finish in one day, and I did note that I did not finish it in one day. But that is this book as well. Please focus on this and not on me. There we go. The Siren by Kiera Cass. Kiera Cass wrote all the Selection series. This is another YA fantasy that follows sirens. I don't know much more about it off the top of my head. It has been a while. I posted this picture on September 7th of last year, so we can kind of see how well I'm doing at this book challenge. Other than that, I haven't really read anything for it, so again, I'm hoping to kind of plug through it. And now I will talk about one book that I'm currently reading, and then the rest of the books that I have for this challenge. Strap in, it'll probably be a pretty long video. So the first book, well the next book, the third book, is a book chosen for the cover, and I am currently reading this book. If you watched my current reads that I posted last Sunday from when you'll be seeing this, I already talked about this book a little bit, but I'll talk about it again. And that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I absolutely love this book, and I always get very excited to talk about this exact copy because I actually found it in a little free library in a town about 45 minutes north of me. It's a very, very pretty cover. I've been wanting to read this for a very long time. I'm now getting to be pretty close to done with it. I'm hoping to finish it by Wednesday or Thursday. You can kind of see why I chose this for the cover. It is a very gorgeous book. Before reading it, the only thing I knew about it was that it was a circus, it was an adult fantasy, and I like the author's name because her and I have the same name. If you didn't know, my real name is Erin, not Andrea. That's just what I go by on here. Author and I have the same name. Beautiful cover. I don't really have much more to say about it. It's a little bit of a complicated storyline, but it follows a circus called the Cirque. Oh, everything is in front, not everything. It is the Le Cirque des Rêves, I believe is how you'd say it. I can't do French. But it follows that circus, and there's a couple plot lines that kind of take place in it. It's a little slow in the beginning, but honestly it gets a lot better as you keep reading. I definitely feel like this is a book that I'm going to have to read a second time to really absorb all of the information, especially because I took some breaks from it and everything. But yeah, I don't have much more to say about this, so let's just get into the next one. Next book is a book that celebrates diversity, and I had to look up like what books did, because obviously if I had read it before then I could talk about it, but I had to like Google some lists and be like, oh, what books actually celebrate diversity, you know, like how can I make sure that I'm getting a book that really fits this category and really shows a really diverse cast. Shows a very diverse cast. So the book that I came up with for this is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. I read this for AP English a while ago. Well, not AP. This one was for honors, and then I didn't end up taking the honors course my junior year. But from what I read, I really liked this, so I'm hoping to actually get the rest of the way through it. It is a book that takes place in Brooklyn. Obviously, you can tell by the title. Back in, I wish I had a time. I used to know exactly when this book took place and everything because I was reading it. Let's see, it is copyright 1943, so we can kind of infer that it takes place around that time. I know that it follows this little girl whose name I don't remember. It might be like a coming of age story. I'm honestly not 100% sure, and I would read the back, but it's just reviews. I hate it when that happens, especially the paperback. But it does say the American classic about a young girl's coming of age at the turn of the century. So maybe late 1800s based off of that, but it is a fiction book. I heard from my classmates that it really makes people cry. It's a very diverse book, and it is an American classic, so I am excited to get to this one as well. The next category is a historical fiction book, so I am choosing Orphan Train by Christina Baker Klein. It is a, when did this book come out? It's not gonna tell me, is it? Don't tell me, but it is between 1854 and 1929. And it follows, let me read it to you, because I always like to read the little synopsis so that it explains it a lot better than I would. Between 1854 and 1929, so-called orphan trains ran regularly from the cities of the East Coast to the farmlands of the Midwest, carrying thousands of abandoned children whose fates would be determined by pure luck. Would they be adopted by a kind and loving family, or would they face a childhood and adolescence of hard labor and servitude? As a young Irish immigrant, Vivian Daly was one such child sent by rail from New York City to an uncertain future a world away. Returning east later in life, Vivian leads a quiet, peaceful existence on the coast of Maine, the memories of her upbringing rendered by a hazy blur, but in her attic, hidden in trunks, are vestiges of a turbulent past. So, I picked this. I believe someone gave this to me and like recommended it to me. I haven't read it yet. Most of these I haven't read. Some of them I will, so if I've read them, I'll like mention it, but let's just infer that I haven't read any of these yet. I am very excited for this. I love historical fiction. I don't talk about it a lot. I am more into reading YA fantasy, and I've kind of branched out on what I read, but I really love reading historical fiction. Like, I have a thing for it. One of my favorite books, The Nightingale by Christian Hannah, that's one of the best historical fictions that I've ever read. So I hope that this also gives me that satisfaction as I read it. It seems like a good story. It has treckled edges, which most people don't like. I really, really like treckled edges. Deckled edges. So yeah, I don't have much more to say about this. Pretty simple category. Next. We have a book based off of a true story. I believe this is a true story. I believe it's a memoir. Someone in the comments tell me if I'm wrong if this is a memoir. I couldn't figure it out when I was trying to pick it up, but I picked it up for this category anyways. And it is Beautiful Boy by David Sheff. This is also now a movie on Amazon Prime that I completely am going to pick up once I know the book, because I like to read the book before I watch the movie. And this is a story about David, and it says a father's journey through his son's addiction. So it is David talking about his son's addiction to, I believe, heroin. I could be wrong, but it is a drug addiction. I heard this book is really powerful, really, really good. It kind of talks about his son when he was young versus when he was older, and kind of the struggles that they face and the journey that they go through as father and son through his son's addiction and that journey through it. I picked this book up a very, very long time ago. It has managed to stay on my shelves through many unhauls, and I think that's a sign. So I truly believe this will be a good book. I have high expectations for it, so hopefully it just doesn't let me down. So the next book is a book written the year you were born, which for me is 2002. And I picked The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold for this. This is a book that I have had people recommend to me. I don't remember where I picked this particular copy up, but I remember I had a couple friends who really enjoyed this. I believe it's either a TV show or a movie now. I don't know. Excuse me. But this is I want to say YA fiction. It might just be fiction, so don't quote me on that. But I basically just picked it because it was the only book on my shelf that I could find that was written the year I was born, as I was thumbing through things. And I just read the back of this so that I could tell you what it was about, but it's beautifully written once more, so I'm going to read it to you very quickly. My name was Salmon like the fish, first name Susie. I was 14 when I was murdered on December 6, 1973. So begins the story of Susie Salmon, who is adjusting to her new home in heaven, a place that is not all what she expected, even as she is watching life on Earth continue without her. Her friends trading rumors about her disappearance, her killer trying to cover his tracks, her grief-stricken family unraveling. Out of unspeakable tragedy and loss, The Lovely Bones succeeds miraculously in building a tale filled with hope, humor, suspense, and even joy. So I think it'll be a very interesting read, a very suspenseful read. I think it's promising. I'm gonna stop saying very. It feels promising. So yeah, I don't have much more to say about this one again, except for I'm once again excited to read it. Boink. Now, unlike the last one, I do have more to say about this. The next category is a book with a cover in the title. Am I not in focus? Oh boy, I hope I was in focus that whole time. If not, I am horribly sorry. I'm not re-recording any of that. So for this one, I picked Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, I believe is how you'd say her name. This is a book that I picked up because of BookTube, because I heard a lot of good stuff about it. So of course, my expectations are extremely high right now for this book, and it has 3 colors in the title, so I deserve triple points for that. Anyways, it is about the president's son, and my bookmark keeps falling out, and the queen. It's the president's son and the royal prince in England, and it's a love story between the two. I don't read romance a lot. I think I've picked up a lot more romances through the years, and I think I enjoy it more than I used to. I don't read it a lot. If it's in a story that I'm reading, I'll take it, but I don't purposely pick it up. This one I purposely picked up. I had a gift card, and I bought this with my money. So, well, with gift card money. Very excited for this. I heard that it's very cute, very fluffy. Just very well written. It is a New York Times bestseller, and the only down thing I heard about this is that there is a lot of political talk in it, so we'll kind of see how that unfolds. But I have a lot of high expectations for this, and I also think that it will be very good, and this is one that I'm very excited to read. Some of these I don't really care about, like when I get to them I get to them, but this one I'm very excited to get to. Next is a book that is banned, and for this I did pick a book that I have read before, but it has been like 5, maybe going on 6 years. And that is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. You can tell that my copy is kind of beat up at this point. I read this back in 8th grade for English honors, and I really didn't like it at the time. I'm not gonna lie. I think the more I think about it, the more I enjoy the story. I watch the movie like every, once in a while. If it's on something, I'll pop it on. But I really want to reread this and really absorb it and read it again. I do actually have in here a newspaper clipping of Harper Lee's obituary, so that's pretty dope. If you don't know what this story is, it is the story of a girl named Scout. This book is set in 1961. Do I dare say Alabama? We're gonna say the South. It is set in 1961, Southern America, in a time of a lot of, why is diversity a thing that's coming to my head? Racism? Why is that not the word that was popping into my head? A time of a lot of racism and segregation and stuff, and it's part a coming of age, really kind of digging into the roots of human behavior and all of that. So I definitely am excited to reread this. It is a banned book in a lot of different places. I could have picked a couple other books that I like more for this. For example, The Catcher in the Rye. It's one of my favorite books of all time. That's a banned book in a lot of places. But I felt like giving this a reread was important, and it's something that I've been meaning to do and haven't done. So yeah. I just got news that one of my Etsy orders shipped, and I'm very, very excited. I'm planning on doing a video with everything that I got because it is book related, but I'm very excited. Anyways, the next category is a graphic novel. So I picked Fun Home, a family tragicomic by Alison Bechdel. I saw Fun Home a few years ago at one of my local theaters where the traveling Broadway shows come to perform. Whew. The way I cried, the way I related to this musical was astronomically, whoa, like just blowing my mind. So I got this book for Christmas and I still haven't read it. Still haven't picked it up. So this is me making myself read it. I don't own a lot of graphic novels. I could have picked a lot of different things for this category, but I chose to do this because I'm very excited for it. It is about the author. It is a, I don't want to say memoir per se, but it is a true story about Allison growing up and realizing that she is a lesbian and coming out to her family, and her dad, who is secretly seeing other men and is interested in men. I don't want to say that he's gay because I don't know if that word is ever, if that label's ever actually put on him, and I don't want to do that if that's not what we're doing in the book. But it is about her and her story with all of that, and kind of dealing with these emotions and dealing with this really toxic family and all of that stuff. So very, very, very good musical, and I'm very, very excited to read the graphic novel. Boop. Okay, so I realized the last time that I did this transition, I didn't do it right, and I forgot to take the book away from my camera, but we're gonna ignore it to talk about the next category, which is a book that you enjoyed as a child. Again, a lot of options I could have picked for this one. This is a book that I've been meaning to reread. It is The Grey King by Susan Cooper. It is part of the Dark is Rising series, a series that I haven't read. This is like second or third book, I think. I've only ever read this book, and I used to always go down to my school's library and I would pick this up. I would pick up a book called There's a Frog in My Throat and Other Sayings a Little Birdie Told Me. There was a book called Tushy about a cat. And I want to say there are a couple more, but this is one of the like chapter books that I picked. I would call this middle grade. It is a middle grade book. It is a fantasy book. It is a 1976 Newbery Award winner, so it is pretty old. And I'm going to tell you what I remember about it without actually reading it. And if you want to look up this book, then please feel free to tell me if I was correct or not. It's about this kid whose name I don't remember, and he lives in Wales, so it's a Welsh setting. And there's some fantasy stuff happening in the mountains that has to do with this dog. That's all I can really tell you about it. I believe it plays with some myth stuff, so some English and Celtic, or Celtic, however you want to say it, and Welsh myths. And I think his name is Will. I wanted to call him Will, but I wasn't sure if that was right. I've got a lot of Will Herondale on my mind from Cassandra Clare's books, so that's what I've been thinking about. But yeah, this is a book that I enjoyed a lot when I was a kid. I don't really feel like a lot of explanation is needed here. I'm not like super excited to get to it, but it will be interesting to revisit a book that I used to really, really enjoy. It is now time for a book with a number in the title, and for this category I picked Mitch Albom's For One More Day. I read Tuesdays with Morrie a while ago. I do have a review, so I will leave that linked below. Editing Erin needs to remember, editing Andrea needs to remember to put these links in. This is your reminder. Anyways, so I am excited to get to For One More Day. I like Mitch Albom's writing style. I really like that they are pretty short books with a lot packed into them. Tuesdays with Morrie made me cry, and there were a lot of things to relate to. It was just a book that was really enjoyable. There is another book by Mitch Albom that I want to read that my one friend really likes, and that is The 5 People You Will Meet in Heaven. So I'm kind of disappointed that that isn't this one. It would still count for a number in the title, but I don't know. It'll still be a good read, I'm sure. Next up is a book on your to-be-read list, and for me, I am choosing Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. This is the 6th book. Do you like the cover? I got this. This is a new copy. This is my copy. Usually I was borrowing most of the books, so this one is my copy. Anyways, this is the 6th book in the Harry Potter series. I'm not going to go too into Harry Potter. I think that most of us have read it or know about it. Like I kind of knew the basic premise before going in. I started reading this series I think last year and I'm almost done, as we can see. I really do want to dive into this, but I'm waiting until I get through all the other books that come before it because I know it is part of the challenge. But I can always switch this out. Like if I get too impatient, I can always switch it out with the Deathly Hallows. Anyways, Harry Potter is about this kid named Harry Potter who discovers that he's a wizard and goes to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. That's a theme park. Goes to a school named Hogwarts for wizards, and it goes through a lot of different adventures and mishaps. So that's basically what this is. I'm not going to go into too much more about it. I barely remember what happened in the last book, so it'll be interesting to get to this one. But I did want to show you my little Hermione clip bookmark. I got these for Christmas last year for my Aunt Stacey. She gets a lot of shout outs in this video, in these videos, but they're really cute. They're just magnet and they don't rip your page or anything, and I really like them. So she's with this book for now. But I believe that is, I'm just gonna let the lighting do what it needs to do. That is that for this category. Okie dokie, you staying with me? You staying with me? You still getting through this? If you made it this far, thank you. If you haven't, you're not seeing this, so I won't even give a message to you. But the next book is a book that is set somewhere that you've always wanted to visit. I could have picked a lot of books. I'm one that has never traveled but always wants to travel. So I actually picked something that was kind of a realistic goal of mine, and that is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This copy is falling apart. I bought this, or I didn't buy this. I think I got this from a friend, but she got it from her school library, and then I tried to take the binding off and it didn't work. So now it's like sticky and it's just overall falling apart and like old. But this book is set in Maine, and all I want to do is visit Maine. I have a lot of stuff that says Maine on it. I have a sweatshirt, I have a pen, I have a hat. It's absolutely ridiculous how much stuff I have that says Maine on it for a girl who's never been to Maine. But nonetheless, I'm a huge Stephen King person. Well, not huge, I'm a big Stephen King person. Not like diehard fan, but I really like him thanks to my grandmother. And, you know, just reading his stuff. I've read Cujo, I've read Carrie and Christine, all C's, so this will kind of break that a little bit. I feel like I've read another one, but maybe I haven't. Oh well. So yeah, I picked this. I could have picked other books of his. I own The Shining, I own Misery and everything, but I heard Pet Sematary is really, really good, and this cover is beautiful. It is the old cover, which I prefer to the new ones, and I have seen the movie. So I'm hoping that the book will be different, maybe even better. It is weird to have watched the movie first and then read it, kind of like in Carrie. It was hard to have it shape everything itself. But yeah, this story is about this cat who gets hit by a truck, I believe. And it centers on this cat in the cemetery, and when you bury your pets, they come back to life. That's the basic premise. I don't really know how to explain it much more than that. I've put off rewatching the movie until I read this. So let's get on to the next book. Okie dokie. So for a book that I wouldn't normally pick up, I did A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This is I believe it's another modern classic. I believe it is an English book. It is a modern classic. See, it tells you right on the back. You can't read that because this isn't focusing on my book. It is a modern classic, and I couldn't tell you 100% what it's about. A fantasy of the future that sheds a blazing critical light on the present, considered to be Aldous Huxley's most enduring masterpiece. So let's go off of that premise. I've owned this book for a long time. I had a phase where all I did was pick up classics, and I think I started reading this and got excruciatingly bored, and then I was gonna get rid of it, and I have kept it. So again, probably a sign. It doesn't look like it'll take too long to read or anything. It seems interesting. Maybe I was just too young to read it. It isn't a book that I'd normally pick up, so if I was walking through Barnes & Noble and I saw this, it isn't something that I'd be like, oh, that looks really good, I'm gonna pick that up. It looks like something that might catch my eye, but not something that I'd pick up. So we'll see when I get to it, and hopefully I can share my thoughts with you when I'm done. I just realized that I skipped a book back right before The Lovely Bones, so I will be reading it before Lovely Bones, but it doesn't really matter in the sake of me telling you a list. I was like going through things and I knew I had another book that I'm gonna have to put up a picture when I'm done talking about it, and I was like, there's another one that I had to do that for. Why am I not seeing it? So it's because I skipped it. So this category that I skipped is a book from your library, and I will be borrowing off of Libby, which I have talked about before. Not sponsored, but it's basically an app that if you put in your library card information, you can access a digital library, so ebooks and audiobooks alike. So the book that I chose for this category is Heartstoppers Volume 1. I didn't write down the author on my phone, and I am not looking it up right now, but I will be putting all the titles down here, so hopefully that'll be available to you. I'm planning on borrowing it from the library, and I'll put up a picture after I'm done talking about it. It is about, I believe it's another romance. It's a graphic novel romance that follows two boys, and I think that's about all I know about it. There are 2 or 3 volumes out now, I want to say, but I wanted to pick up the first one because I heard it was really good. I heard it was really cute, and I heard that it was just very, very nice artwork. I'm gonna stop saying very, I keep saying that. But because I skipped it, I just wanted to give that one a quick shout out. The next one that I skipped, or didn't skip, the next one that I was going to talk about before I skipped is Docile. Again, I didn't write down the author, but it is a debut author. So this was her debut book at the time that I picked it for the challenge, or his, I should say. I don't know if they have any more out. Again, I'll be putting the titles down below, and I'll put up a picture after. I don't know that much about it. I don't remember why I picked it. I think the cover picked my eye, honestly. And I had just heard about them being a debut author and was trying to kind of make a coherent list for myself. So again, I don't really have much to say about it, but it is a mention because it is part of the book challenge. I ceased going in order a while ago. I skipped a book again. A book everyone has read. I picked The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I feel like most people I know have read this or know about it or have at least seen the movie. I've read it. I read this back in 7th or 8th grade. Around the time that it first came out, but yeah. I'll go over it real quick. It's about a girl named Hazel Grace who has cancer and is going to like this cancer support group and meets a guy named Augustus who also has cancer, and it's a big love story, and then something horrible and tragic happens at the end, and it's very John Green-esque if you've ever read any of his stuff before and just haven't picked this one up for some reason. It's a romance, it's a YA. It's really, really good from what I remember. It made me bawl my eyes out. I still haven't watched the movie because I just don't really care to. But maybe I'll pick it up after I reread this. So this is a book everyone has read. Next is a book by an author I've never read. And this is another book I picked up because of BookTube. And this is Lisa Jewell's The Family Upstairs. This is a, I want to say mystery. It might be some sort of horror. I'm not really sure. I think it's just like a dramatic, suspenseful thriller or mystery. So I picked this up a while ago at a Sam's Club when I was out with my grandmother and my dad. I picked this up in another book that I don't have like on hand right now. That sun is right in my eye. Whew. But yeah, it is definitely one that I've heard a lot of good stuff about. I will read you the back real quick because I haven't read it and I don't know that much about it. Soon after her birthday, Libby Jones returns home from work to find the letter she's been waiting for 25 years. She rips it open with one driving thought: I am finally going to know who I am. She learns not only the identity of her birth parents, but also that she is the sole inheritor of their abandoned mansion on the banks of the Thames. Everything in Libby's life is about to change, but what she can't possibly know is that others have been waiting for this day as well, and she is on a collision course to meet them. In The Family Upstairs, the master of bone-chilling suspense, People's name of the magazine that said that. The Family Upstairs brings us the can't-look-away story of 3 entangled families living in a house with the darkest of secrets. So I think it'll be really good. The people who I watch who recommended this on BookTube are all people who I usually have pretty similar taste to, so I think I'll kind of have the same impression. Not horribly excited to get to this. I'm indifferent, but once I'm done reading with it, I'll probably talk to you guys about it. I might have to move my camera, but the next book, or the next category, is a book that your friends like. Plot twist, my friends don't read, which is part of the reason why I keep BookTube channel, but this is a book that my mom likes, an author that my mom likes. So for this category, I picked The Last Song by Nicholas Sparks. This is a mass market paperback copy. I could have borrowed one of hers, but this is mine. I don't remember where I picked this up or why I picked this up, but you know, whatever. I did watch this movie already, which is not usually like me, but I have seen this one. Movie was disappointing. A lot of people have a lot of hype over Nicholas Sparks movies, but yeah, here we are and I didn't like it. So we'll see how I like this. Again, I've been picking up romance here and there. It's about this girl who is played by Miley Cyrus. Her name is Veronica. So Ronnie basically moves in with her dad and has like this big summer romance with this other boy, with this boy named Will. I don't remember that being his movie. Jesus. I don't remember Will being his name. Ronnie moves in with her dad, who lives on like this beach town, and has this big summer romance with Will. And everyone in the town hates her dad. And we all have to figure out why everyone hates her dad. Like, what happened? Well, not what happened. They blame him for burning down the church. So we gotta figure out what happened. And also follow Ronnie and Will in like the summer romance. And why does Ronnie hate her dad? And just teen angst and everything. So yeah, I don't really care one way or another when I get to this. Maybe if my friends actually read, I could have had a bigger option, but it was either a Nicholas Sparks book or a Jennifer Weiner book. So I picked Nicholas Sparks because I had seen this movie and I want to see what the book was like. Okay, so I had to move my camera because the sun was right in my face, but you can still see my little setup, so it doesn't really matter. Next category is a book that I have read before, but it has been a hot minute, and I really like the movie. And that is a middle grade book, so I picked Holes by Louis Satcher. I think we read this in class, I don't remember. I think we read it as a class, or maybe I picked it up myself. But this is a middle grade book. I have seen the movie about 607 times. Very, very good. I'd recommend this if you do have like middle school grade at home, like 5th to 8th grade, or even like maybe 3rd or 4th grade if they are at an advanced reading level, I usually say. I definitely recommend this book. I absolutely love it. It's such a good like coming of age story, such a good, just such an entertaining story. And if you have Disney Plus, the movie is on there because it is a Disney movie. I don't know if it's on anything else. It used to be on Netflix, but like don't quote me on that. Holes is about this kid named Stanley Yelnats who gets in trouble one day for something. There's a curse on him and his family because of his no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather, and follows all of the Yelnats. So, they don't say on the back why he was sent, so I guess it's going to be a surprise to the reader, but he gets sent to this detention center where all the boys there are meant to dig holes as punishment. So dig holes in the desert, little to no water, as kind of their punishment instead of going to like a juvenile center or something like that. And then you have to find out like really what's going on and like why they have to dig up so many holes and everything. Very good, very cute. I really like it. I'm excited to revisit this. Like I said, I watch the movie all the time, but I haven't read the book in a while, so this will be a good one to revisit. Next up is a book with an unusual title, and I assume that was supposed to be left up to interpretation. There are a lot of books that you could probably say have unusual titles. But I picked another John Green book because I'm trying to read more of his stuff, and that's An Abundance of Catherines. I could have picked Turtles All the Way Down, but I've already read that book, so I wanted to like kind of widen my horizons to not rereading the same 3 books. So again, we have another YA. I'm guessing this is just kind of like a drama book. I'm going to read you the back because I honestly don't 100% remember what this is about, and I believe John Green is going to tell you a lot better than I would. When it comes to relationships, Colin Singleton's type is girls named Catherine. And when it comes to girls named Catherine, Colin is always getting dumped. 19 times to be exact. On a road trip miles from his home, this anagram-happy, washed-up child prodigy has $10,000 in his pocket, a bloodthirsty feral hog on his trail, and an overweight Judge Judy-loving best friend riding shotgun. But no Catherines. Colin is on a mission to prove the theorem of underlying Catherine's predictability, which he hopes will predict the future of any relationship and avenge dumpies everywhere, and may finally win him the girl. I think it'll be cute. I think it'll be really good. I love Paper Towns and I love Turtles All the Way Down. And I feel like this has a lot of more Paper Towns-esque storyline, but you know, who knows? Maybe it'll have some Turtles All the Way Down elements too. I'm not gonna stop the clip. So next one is a book that you were assigned to read for school but didn't, and there were a couple I could have picked, but I wanted to make sure that I picked something that I maybe have a higher chance of enjoying. So I picked Mouse. Couldn't tell you the name of it. Again, I'm hoping to put all of the names down here, so I'm not really that worried about it. But I was supposed to read Mouse, M-A-U-S, in sophomore year, like going into sophomore year for honors, and I didn't. I read enough to get me through the class, at the beginning of the class, but I didn't read the book. It's a graphic novel that portrays the Holocaust using metaphorical images of mice as the people in the concentration camps, and pigs as the Nazi officers and just the soldiers in general. I thought that it was really long. I had to read Mouse 1 and 2, but I just wasn't interested in it. I didn't care about it, and I kind of waited till last minute to read it. So see how it is when I get back into it. I will be borrowing it from my library on Libby again, or maybe finding a free copy online. I know that my teacher did that for us, so if it's not on the library for whatever reason, I might resort to doing that, but I really don't want to. I feel weird doing that. I'll put up an image of that again so that you guys can see that. Next is a book for young adults. Again, I could have picked like almost any book I wanted to, but I wanted to pick one that I hadn't read before that would be interesting and kind of branching out a little bit. And I picked Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I don't know how you say it, probably Rowell. I've had this is another book that I've kind of just had forever, never really got to. I do own other Rainbow Rowell books, one of them being Eleanor and Park, which is one of my favorites. I'm not going to dig it out right now. But yes, I have owned this for a while. And this one is about Kath is a Simon Snow fan. Okay, the whole world is a Simon Snow fan. But for Kath, being a fan is her life, and she's really good at it. She and her twin sister Wren ensconced themselves, is that how you say that word? In the Simon Snow series when they were just kids. It's what got them through their mother leaving. Reading, rereading, hanging out on Simon Snow forums, writing Simon Snow fan fiction, dressing up like the characters for every movie premiere. And then it kind of goes through that, and I believe that she like meets this guy, and like she's just very into this. She's a fangirl for the series. And if you didn't know, I believe the Carry On, not Carry On, what is the name of the series? Be right back. Staying with me? You here? Good. So we have The Time Traveler's Wife next. It is a book about time travel. Don't ask me if this is actually about time travel. I don't know. I'm assuming it is. I picked it because I had Time Traveler in the title, so it might be a little bit of a cheat. I was going to read the back and then tell you about it, but the back is so short I might as well just read it. A most untraditional love story. This is the celebrated tale of Henry de Tamble, a dashing, adventuresome librarian who involuntarily travels through time. It does have to do with time travel. And Claire Abshire, an artist whose life takes a natural sequential course. Henry and Claire's passionate affair endures across a sea of time and captures them in an impossibly romantic trap that tests the strength of fate and basks in the bound of love. Again, another book I've kind of had for a while. I've heard a ton of great things about, so I am excited to get to this one. But I don't really have much to say about it because I haven't read all of these. It's kind of hard to say things about them. Except for that, yeah, eventually I'll get to them, and some I'm more excited to read than others, but they are part of this book challenge. So, you know how it be. Next is a book from an independent bookshop, and fun fact about me, most of the bookstores that I happen to shop at, they're all used. Most of them end up closing after a certain amount of time. But I do remember buying this a while ago from one of those used bookstores, and that is Kelly Link and Gavin J. Grant's editing of Steampunk, an anthology of fantastically rich and strange stories. There's a Cassandra Clare short story in here, which I didn't include this in my Cassandra Clare collection, but it is interesting to add. A beautiful, beautiful cover. And again, it's just an anthology of different steampunk stories by a lot of different authors. There's Libba Bray, there's Cassandra Clare, Dylan Horrocks, who else is in here? Christopher Rowe, Kelly Link, and Elizabeth Knox. And I'm sure there's many more in here, but those are some names just as I was flipping through. Such a good thing that I want to read this. Like, I'm very excited for this one. I know I keep saying very excited and everything, but I haven't read this one yet. So when I get to it, it'll be good. It is a hefty book though. It's pretty heavy, it's pretty thick, but it'll be good. Okay, second to last, we have a book set in a different country. And so I picked All Quiet, there goes my bookmark. All Quiet on the Western Front. This is the testament of Paul Baumer, who enlists with his classmates in the German army of World War I. These young men become enthusiastic soldiers, but their world of duty, culture, and progress breaks into pieces under the first bombardment in the trenches. Through years of vivid horror, Paul holds fast to a single vow, to fight against the hatred that meaninglessly pits young men of the same generation but different uniforms against one another, if he can only come out of the war alive. We're going to say it one more time. I love historical fiction. I'm excited to read this. I picked this up at one of my favorite museums when they had a World War I exhibit, and still haven't read it. Excited. Greatest war novel of all time, it is called. And All Quiet on the Western Front is by Erich Maria Remarque, I believe is how you'd say that. So not much more to say about this. I feel like a lot of people have heard about it. It is a mass market paperback book, but it's very pretty for a mass market paperback. Like, I don't feel like it's too cheap. And I think that's about it. So let's get to the last one. The last book I have is a book that was turned into a movie, and for this I picked up A Dog's Purpose by W. Bruce Cameron. This was a huge movie that came out that I'll probably never watch for personal reasons, but also because if this book makes me cry, I'm not watching a movie that's going to make me cry. I've heard a ton of great stuff, both about this book and about the movie. I think it'll make me sob. I like the cover. It's a very pretty book. It's a little generic, but it's pretty good looking. This book follows the soul of a dog who kind of goes through different owners and dies and comes back as other dogs, and how dogs help people like through different things. I think it's kind of like the main message of this. W. Bruce Cameron has many other stories. This is just one of the more famous ones. I begged my dad to get this for me at Barnes & Noble and still haven't read it, so it will be long overdue by the time I get to it. And that is it. That is the book challenge that I'm hoping to do. Basically, my plan is kind of how I try to chug through books is I say, let's take Night Circus for example. I was about halfway through this when I was like, okay, I'm taking forever on this book, and I really am. I still am. And I was like, maybe on Thursday or Friday, I said, I'm going to finish this by Wednesday. For me to finish this on Wednesday, I did the math, and I would have to read 33 pages a day, and I write that on the back of my bookmark. And I say, okay, if I'm going to finish this by Wednesday, I only have to read 33 pages a day. And so until Wednesday, I'll read 33 pages a day. And that is kind of my plan for all of these books, is to do that and really put aside time for reading. I do on Wednesdays. I will sit down and read and write as much as I can during the day. I believe it's Wednesdays, it could be Tuesdays, but that's not important. And, you know, kind of plug through everything. And I think because I'm doing BookTube now, it's a really good motivator for keeping up with reading and all of that, so that'll help as well. And also just the drive of like, you know, I haven't been reading, I haven't been keeping up with the challenge, like let's go, let's get it done, you know. And my Goodreads book challenge is only like maybe 40 books this year, so I really want to exceed that too. And that's all I have. So I hope you enjoyed. If you stuck around to the end, thank you very much. You should leave a like and a comment if you want to. As always, also feel free to subscribe and share if you want to. It does help out a lot. I am a very, very small YouTuber, so every little bit helps no matter what you do, even just a few. And I think that is all. I'll leave my social media down below if you want to see that. Everything that I mentioned I will have to remember to link, but I'll link it. And I will see y'all in the next video, so I hope y'all have a good day.